Jane?
Yes, hi Ellen.
Hey, I guess we should probably just go ahead and get started.
Yeah,
I have a couple that are, but let's go ahead.
Okay. Hello again, everybody. I'm hoping you can hear me clearly and that you can see my screen. I am recording this session. My name is Jane Dupree and I'm the Product Marketing Manager at SnapComms. I'm speaking to you today from Auckland in New Zealand, where it's 9 a.m. in the morning and it's going to be a gorgeous day, about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So I know many of you are in much colder parts, so sending a bit of sunshine your way.
And 10 inches of snow. So thank you for sharing your warm weather.
So that's Ellen who's speaking. She's assisting me today. She's our
in the cold.
She's our United States Customer Success Manager, and she'll be looking out for your questions during my demonstration. Good afternoon to you, Ellen, and thanks for joining.
Thank you.
So this webinar, welcome to this webinar. It is a demonstration of how to multiply the power of SnapComms with a Connect campaign. So we're going to be talking about how to get from over here with non-compliant, poorly informed and unaware employees on the journey to over here where they are 100% compliant, fully informed and aware. Firstly, some webinar house rules. As I said, I am recording the webinar and you will receive a copy of the webinar as well, a copy of that recording as well as the slide deck by email just in an hour or two after this webinar. As attendees, you are all muted on the webinar, but that certainly doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. Please use the questions feature to send us comments and questions at any stage. I really don't mind interruptions at all. To ask a question, you simply click on the orange arrow to expand your GoToWebinar panel, and then you type your question in the question box. Ellen will be watching that question pane, and she will interrupt me with your questions. My session is about 40 to 45 minutes, so there will also be time at the end of the session for questions. And the product team here at SnapComms is very interested in any feedback you have on this campaign tool and any requests for further features. So please don't be shy with your questions. Let me take you through the agenda for this webinar. We're going to start by looking at the concept of a communication campaign. Then I'm going to explain what a SnapComms Connect campaign is. I'll explain who can use it and what it costs. We'll then go through the basics of planning a campaign in the SnapComms Content Manager. After that, we'll get hands-on on how to see how to create and publish the campaign. And I will elaborate on the 4 types of campaign scenarios. Finally, we'll look at campaign measurement, and that is how to check that employees have made that behavioral change journey from A to B. To understand the concept of a campaign, you need to understand your target audience. Now, your target audience are the employees or staff in your organization, and employees today are just consumers. Consumers like you and me who have been trained very well by advertisers and consumer publications to consume information that is high impact, visually engaging, and brief from a content standpoint. So when we're trying to communicate with employees, it's no different to a large consumer advertiser, let's say Procter & Gamble, trying to sell a new product to consumers. So what does Procter & Gamble know that we don't? These successful advertisers have determined many years ago that if they want to sell you a new product, they need to use multiple messaging. So they use TV, radio, online advertising, direct mail, print coupons, product demos, and more. They understand that they're competing for your attention, consumers' attention, and if they want to keep the messaging fresh and impactful, that's what they need to do. They use short bursts in multiple formats. So that in a nutshell explains the concept of a campaign. It is multifaceted, short burst messages that gets the communication message across over time. So then what is a SnapComms Connect campaign? It's a combination of different SnapComms channels, such as desktop alerts, tickers, videos, screensavers, wallpapers, quizzes. Each channel delivers a short burst or a micro message around the same topic. These get drip-fed over time, completely bypassing email systems. That's very important. We're not using email, we're bypassing email, and they're delivered directly to employees' screens. Those screens can be their mobile phone screens or their PC or Mac screens in the office. Towards the end of the campaign, employees are sent a request for validation. Very, very importantly, this is when staff are asked to acknowledge that they've read and understood the information that has been provided over the course of the campaign. And it's this crucial and measurable last step which verifies that successful behavioral change. So who can use the SnapComms Connect campaign? Any SnapComms customers, just like yourselves, who are already using one or more of our channels, can add the license for the campaign tool. Having said that though, a campaign is most effective when it combines a selection of tools, as I've said. So using 2, 3, or up to 6, all of our tools is definitely an advantage. And that's mainly because by varying the channels, such as alert, ticker, screensaver, the different media types we can deliver, you'll be covering all your bases, appealing to all ages and learning styles. The cost is an additional 10% of your annual SnapComms license fees, and hopefully this demonstration is going to prove the value of that additional cost. So what would you use a campaign for in your internal communication world? A SnapComms Connect campaign is used for getting employees on board with new ideas, processes, and policies. In fact, a campaign is useful for any situation that requires staff education and individual confirmation that staff have understood and that they agree to comply. So some very common examples in corporate communication of when a campaign would be ideal would be for IT departments, communicating IT security, which could be education around phishing emails or announcements of new corporate password policies. In ethics and compliance departments, this might be when you need to explain and get commitment to topics such as conflict of interest in the workplace or social media policies. And in HR departments, this could be updating evacuation procedures or detailing working from home policies. So I'm hoping that at least one of these examples resonates with your organization and the communication challenges that you face. Let's move on now and look at how you go about planning and creating a campaign. Firstly, you need to prepare and assemble your campaign content. For the demonstration in this webinar, we've created a password policy campaign, and it announces a new corporate password policy that comes into effect on the 31st of January, so the end of this month. Then you need to determine your required outcome. In other words, what are you trying to achieve? Why are you doing this? In our example, the required outcome is that employees need to show their understanding of the new concepts and they need to agree to comply with the password policy. All campaigns have a timeline. In our case, this is determined by the new policy coming into effect on the 31st of January, so our timeline is going to be just over 2 weeks, that's 15 days. Now let's look at how this password policy campaign might look on a calendar. Just to note that this calendar is actually offline, it's outside of the SnapComms Content Manager, and it's simply a guide to help you schedule each element of the campaign. I'm going to quickly run through all the elements that make up the campaign, but we are going to go through each of these in quite a lot of detail when we look at the campaign in the SnapComms Content Manager. So you'll see that we start Day 1 is on a Wednesday, where we deliver a desktop alert. That is the icon for the desktop alert announcing the new policy. So that's the beginning, the announcement of the campaign. On Day 2 we send an invitation, and that's going to invite staff to a live learning session about the new policy. On Day 4 we deliver a screensaver which reinforces the topic. Then on day 6, we deliver directly to screen a video tutorial on how to create a strong password. Friday, day 8, is the day before the presentation. We can load a wallpaper to people's desktops, reminding them of the presentation. Then day 9 is presentation day, so early in the morning we run a ticker that reminds people to attend later in the day. After the presentation, we deliver the full policy document via a desktop alert. This delivers a link to a PDF that can be downloaded and reviewed at leisure. Okay, day 10. This is the climax of the campaign, where we send the validation piece, and this is the key new piece in our campaign tool, and this is where we test the knowledge and ask staff to comply. As soon as that's gone out, but let's say from day 11, we can start looking at campaign results. So we can start taking a look at exactly who has and who hasn't complied, and we can remind those who haven't. Finally, on day 15, which is the day the new policy comes into effect, we can run another ticker reminding staff that the changes are now in place. Okay, with that planning complete, we're now ready to build that campaign in the SnapComms Content Manager. So I'm going to switch to that now and look at that scheduled and published campaign there. But you've all been quiet. I've been talking a lot. Ellen, have there been any questions so far?
We do have one question, and that is, how many supporting items could be in a campaign? Is there a limit?
Great question. There is no technical limit, no. It will very much be determined by the amount of content you need to distribute and the length of your campaign. So your campaign could be as small as one desktop alert sending out some information followed by the validation item, or if your campaign is running over a couple of months, you could have 10 to 20 items in that campaign. So the answer there is no, there's no limitation.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have switched now to the SnapComms Content Manager, and you should recognize this dashboard. This is our Snap Here Content Manager, which was released in July last year. I do appreciate that some of you who have local installations may still be seeing the old Content Manager. The campaign tool is available in this new Snap Here look. So you will see the 3 options shown here, and this is most likely because you are not yet licensed for that campaign tool. But I'm going to switch now to my own content manager, which of course is licensed for campaigns, and you can see that the 4th option labeled campaigns is now available. So opening that campaigns option, we can see that password policy campaign that I've set up for this webinar. Opening that again, it's just a short delay while it opens up. There we go. I can see all the different messages that we've just discussed on the calendar. For demonstration purposes for this webinar, I've already published these to myself, but in real life, of course, they would be scheduled to be sent out as per the calendar planning. Now, the key thing to notice here is the validation item, and it is marked with this new icon, which is orange with a tick. And as mentioned previously, this validation item is sent out towards the end of the campaign, and it measures employees' acceptance of or compliance with the communication. But more about this special validation piece later. Let's run through the other messages in the campaign. As we decided in our planning calendar, the campaign starts with a desktop alert introducing the new password policy. This is delivered on day 1. I've already published it to myself, so we could take a look at it from my SnapComms app. But just to remind you quickly of the attention-grabbing power of SnapComms, let's quickly republish it to show the pop-up notification display. So I'm going to select that and publish it, republish it, clicking publish. Waiting for that confirmation. There we go.
So
And
Jane,
yep,
we do have a quick question.
sure.
People are asking, what about templates? Can we use our existing templates that have our logo branded on them?
Again, a very good question. We the campaign, the validation item does require a new set of templates. We do have 6 of them that are free to use, but we are on, if once people sign up for the campaign tool, they can put in an order for a campaign, a set of campaign templates. There are 3 of them for each of the scenarios. So certainly, yes, we will update those to match your branding.
Thank you.
Okay, well, my little demonstration there didn't work, but let's open my app, and there is the new message introducing the new password policy. And I just wanted to point out those animations that are now available in our newest app, and the new templates, and all the animations all work towards helping getting that message noticed. So message pops up on screen. It clearly announces the password policy is changing at the end of the month. And it explains what's going to happen during the course of the campaign, and that at the end of the campaign, once staff have learned all about it, we will ask them to comply with the new policy. So that's the introduction. On day 2, we deliver an invitation via our RSVP tool, so let's have a look at that. This is an invitation to a live session in a conference room where the IT team will take employees through the nuts and bolts of the new policy. But not all campaigns need to have a live session like this. But with a consumer communication, as with any consumer communication campaign where they use multimedia, it's a good idea to offer as many different communication types as possible. So getting people in a room and taking them through the new policy is still a good idea, and the SnapComms RSVP tool allows you to invite staff and manage those responses. Closing that out, on day 4 we deliver a humorous screensaver. Now I can't show you the live screensaver, but I can show you a preview of it. This is a tongue-in-cheek reinforcement of the importance of keeping your password safe. So little bit of a joke. This guy is bragging that his password's so strong nobody can guess it. And this guy goes, no, we just read it off the sticky note under your keyboard, which of course is definitely not encouraged way to store your password. So that's a screensaver. You would have noticed it had a ticker running over it too, encouraging people to come to the session, and they could in fact click on that link to reply to that invitation to come. Now, for some of you, this will be the first time you've seen our new screensaver interface. We launched this end of 2016, and it is fantastic and very, very easy to use, and allows you to create some pretty exciting screensavers. So there we go. I had a little punt on our screensaver as well. So let's go back to our password policy. On day 6, we can deliver a video tutorial direct to screen. Let me pull that up for you. There's the video. Now, videos are a fantastic way to engage staff because they deliver the information in a really easy to follow and digestible format. The video is sent directly to employees' screens using the SnapComms video alerts. So it appears on their screens. It's very engaging. It uses sound. And in this case, it is a video about how to make a strong password. Unfortunately, I can't play the video now as it interferes with the GoToWebinar application, but it's a fun little animation about the do's and don'ts of a strong password. Right, day 8, which is the day before the live session, we could publish, let me close that, publish a desktop wallpaper. Now remember, wallpaper is typically the first screen that people see when they log in the morning, or it's the screen that's the background screen they see in between, changing between applications. So This wallpaper is again a reminder of the live session, but it could be more information about how to create a secure password, or it could be an infographic around some more do's and don'ts. So that is another one of our SnapComms tools. We're using the wallpaper. So
Jane,
yeah,
we have a question.
excellent.
Does the video function as a screensaver, i.e. pops up after X minutes of inactivity?
The one I've just showed you, no, that's delivered on schedule to the screen. However, our new screensaver does have a video feature, so you could create a screensaver which contains a full screen video, and that would then pop up after a predetermined idle time. So once people had not interacted with their computer for, let's say, 5 or 10 minutes, that video would play via the screensaver. So yes, that can be achieved.
And one other question we had was, does SnapComms provide the content for these campaigns, or do I have to create it myself?
Great question. That one's coming up a lot. At this stage, SnapComms is very much just the pipes. We're the delivery mechanism. But as we move into this campaign area, we have had requests for content. This content I've created myself, and customers would still be having to create their own content, but we do have some great content partners. One of them, I have Compliance Wave are a partner of ours. They do fantastic content around ethics and compliance. But it's also something that the management team here at SnapComms have been talking about, is actually providing pre-packaged campaigns. In other words, selling campaigns like this password policy ready to go. So the answer, Ellen, is right now no. Customers need to create their content, but it may be something we look to in the future, especially if there's demand from customers.
Thank you.
Okay, so on day 9, this is the day of the live session. We want to remind people again to attend, so we will fire off a ticker. Now, our tickers run across the bottom of the screen, quite engaging, and this one is saying don't forget to attend either at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. in the presentation room. Okay.
Jane, I'm
Yep.
sorry to interrupt. We had a few people that joined a little late today, so we just want to point out to them to ask questions, simply type them into that question box. I'll field them and get those over to Jane. So
Thanks,
you're
Ellen.
wondering how I'm doing that.
Thanks very much, Ellen. Okay, now let's pretend that our live sessions have taken place, and as staff return to their workstations, we can schedule to deliver the full policy document for them to download and review. So I will just look for that. That's delivered via a desktop alert. You might want to send this full screen to their screen so that they can't miss it, and they simply click on the link to download the policy. That links to your file share system. For demonstration, I've just put that as a PDF onto Dropbox. So here they have access to the policy, which they could download, print, and review at their leisure. Okay, now finally it's the day after the live session, and we are assuming people have digested the information over the course of the campaign, and it's time to send that important validation item. It's this crucial last step which verifies that successful behavioral change, that they've understood what we need them to about secure passwords, and that they will comply with the new policy. So let's open that up now and take a careful look, because this is new. Okay, here it is, password policy acceptance. Quite a bit of information in here. This validation method is, message is configured to first test employees' knowledge before asking them to comply. So you will see that there are 2 questions and then a button which they click to comply. Now, the answers to these questions would have been covered over the course of the campaign and in the live session and in the downloaded PDF, and all questions must be answered correctly before the employee can comply. So let's just, I'm going to take a chance here and try, and I get feedback saying that is wrong. So I'd have to try again. I'm not going to complete that demonstration at the moment. I'll do it later via my phone app. So, sorry, I had to point out one other thing. Notice that this message does have a close button, which means that the employee can do what I've just done and close it. Perhaps I need to go and research the correct answers to those questions, and they can come back to it from the app or when that pop-up notification recurs. You can configure this the validation message templates to not have that close button if you want to insist that staff respond immediately. But I will be talking more about that later when we talk about the scenario types and the advanced settings. So that was the validation piece, and finally the last item in our campaign, sometimes referred to as the drip item, is this ticker, which will appear on the day that the policy comes into effect, saying that the rules have changed. Today it's your responsibility, and a link to that document to refresh themselves. So a ticker can also carry a link that would link to that same PDF. Ellen, any questions? I've again been talking quite a bit, but any questions?
Not at this moment.
Okay, good. So let's return now to my slide deck and talk about these campaign scenario types, which I've mentioned a few times. Just give me a second. All right, we offer 4 pre-configured campaign types based on certain scenarios. Now, by scenario, we mean what is your outcome you're trying to achieve. So let's start with what we already know. The validation scenario is what we looked at in the password policy campaign, and it is where, remember, we validated employees' knowledge. We asked them to complete questions correctly before we allowed them to comply. Second type would be compulsory comply, which is sort of the one end of well, it is an extreme. It is where you don't give staff any option but to comply. So they have to agree or acknowledge the message on the screen and click comply. That is compulsory comply, and I'll show you an example in a minute. And then the third type is optional compliance, where the employee can actually opt out of complying, so they can choose not to comply. The fourth type is educational only, and that's where a number of informative messages are sent, but there's actually no validation at the end of the campaign. So it's really just an awareness campaign. So let's look at an example of each of those. We've already looked at the validation piece with the questions and then the comply button. Now, looking at compulsory, this is where as you can see, the employee has absolutely no option here except to click that comply button. Notice that there is no close button on this template. The close button usually appears here. So the only way that the employee can get this message off their screen is to comply. And I mean, it is quite harsh, but it's very effective when your campaign topic is tied to a policy that is enforced by employees' employment contract. So in other words, when complying is a condition of their employment, so they absolutely have to. So that's very useful. And then the third type is optional. Now in this case, this is related to a conflict of interest campaign where we have given people information around declaring conflict of interest, and we are asking them to say yes or no. In other words, to comply, opt in or out of declaring any conflicts of interest to their management. If they say no, they are given a chance to give their reason. Perhaps they would like more information, or they don't yet understand the topic. in full. So those are
So
the,
Jane,
yes?
we do have one question. They wanted to know how can I get no close button on the validation item?
Okay. Good question. I'm going to get to that right after this. We are going to go back to the Content Manager and I'm going to run a quick tutorial on how to create these validation pieces, and I will cover that in that little tutorial. So if you can just hang 10, I will get there.
So the good news is the answer is
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
we can.
yes, you can put it on any of these, and I'll show you exactly how.
So if they need to strong arm the employee, they can get them to do
Absolutely.
what they want them to do.
Yeah, and I'll show you how to
Great.
make it full screen too, so they can do absolutely nothing else. Okay, so as I said, we're going to jump back to the Content Manager, and I'm going to run you briefly through how to set that up. So we need to jump back to my dashboard. The dashboard is the starting page, and to reach that you click the SnapComms logo. Again, you click that campaign icon, and here you'll see any existing campaigns. So there is our password policy campaign. I've also got a social media compliance campaign, but we're going to create a new one. So let's create a campaign, and I'm going to be cheating and copying and pasting in here because my typing while I'm being watched is not good. So it's at this point, once we've named the campaign, that we need to select the scenario. So here are the 4 scenarios I've just talked to you about: compulsory, optional, validation, and information only. So for this quick demo, I'm going to choose scenario 1, compulsory, and click next. So here you choose the template. So I know there was a question earlier about branded templates. So if we have created some branded campaign templates, they will be available here for you, but these 6 are available for free, and you can use them if you just want to give this tool a trial. So I'm going to choose the bright red compulsory retail template. Notice how there's confirmation that the campaign has been created, and you are immediately now taken to the editing screen of this validation item. Now remember, although we're creating it first, it's actually the message that goes out towards the end of the campaign. So we need to give the message a title. We need to add some body copy. In this case, I'm simply stating that there is a new policy, and I'm going to offer a link to download it. Of course, this could be, you could offer a video here or anything else. I'm just going to keep it simple and do that. And just to keep things cheerful and again, encourage engagement, I'm going to add a image. Let's look for my image about health and safety. Send it to the server. I'm going to align it to the right, and I think that looks okay for now. So now we need to enter the acceptance message. So this is the line of text that goes above that the button which says I comply or I agree. And so in my case, I'm going to just use that text, and as you can see, you can put any words you'd like on the submit button. In my case, I'm going to type I comply. Right, while you are in this editing mode, you do still need to save, so I'm going to do that now. And then we're going to preview the message to see how it looks on screen. Did I get confirmation there? Yep, okay, so let's preview. That doesn't look too bad at a first go, except I don't like these little scroll bars, so I'm going to resize it. I'm going to simply pull it until it's looking as I would like it, set my new size, and I do need to save to persist that that new size. So that's something you wouldn't have seen before in SnapComms, and it's definitely the way we're going with all of our tools, is we're making it far easier to use. You know, you just saw me resizing that in situ. Previously, you would have had to go to the Advanced tab to do that resizing. So let's go back to Edit. Before we can publish, before we're ready to send this out, of course, we need to set the target users and the date for this to go out. The default targeting option here is groups, and I'll select Jane's group, which I've got set up for this demo. I could also choose the whole organization if that was appropriate. But if you did want to target individual users or groups of, you know, a combination of users and groups, you can switch on advanced targeting where you have all these options that you're familiar with. But I'm going to switch that off and stick with my Jane's group. And for target dates, it will default to show you today's date. So I'm going to publish this. Of course, these publishing dates will be determined by that calendar, the planning you did up front. I'm just going to, for this demo, publish for 1 week. Okay, now before we move on, let's look at those advanced settings. On the advanced settings, you can change the name. You can put in a description, which is optional. Under publishing options, you can choose a pop-up notification, which is the default, but you can also choose to send this validation item directly on screen at the size you've chosen, the size you've edited, or you can send it, you can overwrite all of that and send it full screen, which is quite impactful. Silent is usually not appropriate for this kind of campaign. That's when it's delivered quietly to the message history. Now here is the close button setting. For scenario 1, which is what we're demonstrating now, where it is compulsory to comply, the default is to have no close button at all. So I'm going to leave that off, but if you did want to switch it on, that's all you need to do. For scenario 2 and 3, so optional and validation, that close button is shown by default, but as we've said, this is how you can switch it off. And here you set your recurrence, your notification recurrence settings. In other words, if you've chosen a pop-up which has a read now or a read later option, this is how often that pop-up will appear and at what intervals. You can also choose to play a sound when the item appears on screen. Okay, whoops, sorry, one more thing, delivery options. This is where you can change the words that actually appear in that pop-up. By default, the words are simply the name of the campaign. I'm going to add some urgency here by prefixing this with the word important. You can also choose other delivery mechanisms. I'm going to send a push notification to my mobile users so that they'll get a notification on their mobile phones. And again, I'm going to say important. So, oh, sorry about that. So that will probably answer a question in some of your minds. Yes, these validation items can be sent to mobile, the SnapComms mobile app too. Okay, we are now ready to publish that, but of course we need to go and add some supporting messages, the other elements in the campaign that are going to educate and inform around this health and safety campaign. So I return to my campaign, there it is, health and safety, and I add content. So I use the create content. I'm going to simply use a desktop alert, and I'm going to choose the matching red, bold.
Jane?
Yep.
While you're working on that, we've got a question for you.
Sure.
And that is, will I see all the channels that you're showing here if I have campaigns, or only the ones that I normally have?
Great question. You will only see the channels that you're currently licensed for. So if you have alerts and tickers, when you try and add supporting messages to your campaign, you will only be able to add alerts and tickers. So it is limited to your existing licensing.
but I would throw in, keep in mind with alerts, you've got
Oh,
RSVP
yeah, of course,
alerts,
yeah.
you've got various types of alerts. So there's 4 in 1 just in
Yeah,
that option. So you can
absolutely.
shake it up.
Yeah, so you've still got that very powerful video capability within the alerts channel. Okay, so this will look familiar to you. This is the traditional desktop alert publishing, so I'm not going to go any further here. I'm going to assume you all know how to continue there, but that would be the extent of this health and safety campaign. So we have the actual validation item and just one supporting item. Okay, moving back to the view of all my campaigns, we're going to start looking at the numbers and the statistics. Let's look at this password policy campaign, and here you can notice that it has 8 supporting messages. So those are the alerts, screensavers, tickers, wallpaper that have all will educate and inform the employee before we test their knowledge. And then moving across, you will notice that we have some success statistics. So that's my segue into the reporting or the measurement part of this demo. But again, a quick pause in case there are any questions. Ellen?
I don't have any at this time.
Okay. So the key reports to focus on with campaigns are the campaign summary reports and the status reports. So I'm going to open my...
Oh, we do have a question.
Sure.
What is the impressions count?
Oh, somebody's got an eagle eye. I'm getting to that in the next paragraph. So this is what I was talking about. This is the summary report, and as someone has noticed, we've introduced some new terminology, and one of those terms is impressions. Impressions is the total cumulative number of eyeballs on all the messages in the campaign. In other words, how many times have all the messages being shown to employees. So it's an advertising term, and it kind of gives you a measure of the overall reach. How many times have all the elements combined been seen? More importantly, though, is success, which I'm pointing at now. Now, success count refers to the number of employees who have actually complied. So we've got them across the line. They have agreed to that behavioral change, and therefore it is reported as successful. So in this example on our password policy, the count is 4, which translates to 57% of our audience targeted. But let's take a closer look now at those statistics. Next to the validation item, if you scroll along, click on reports, we're going to look at the campaign status. Right. Okay, that's fully loaded. So what you're seeing here is a real-time summary of what has happened so far. So as things happen in the campaign, the reports are updated immediately. So let's start top left, looking at this bar chart. This summary is telling me that I targeted 7 staff members. It tells me that I have been successful with 4. They have agreed or complied. I have 2 people who have ignored the message, which means they've seen it on their screen, but they've closed it out with that close button. So we call that ignored. Nobody has, well, there's no not read count, but there is this one person here who has not downloaded it, and that implies that the SnapComms app is not connecting to the server to receive content. So there will be perhaps a technical problem there, or perhaps this person is simply on holiday, on vacation, and they'll deal with this message when they come back. So moving across to the first pie chart, this shows us the success rate of all people targeted. So that's that same 57%, or the 4 out of 7. And secondly, this pie chart shows the success percentage of all read. So here we exclude the statistics for this person who is on holiday, and so the count here is 4 out of 6 who it has been delivered to. Okay, now This bar chart simply shows the dates that people complied. So we had one person on the 17th, sorry, on the 9th, two on the 10th, and one today. Right, so drilling down below the graphics, there's a table to see which shows us exactly who has and who hasn't interacted with the campaign and the details of that. So we can see that there are a couple of people who have complied. That's a mobile user. Here's another mobile user. And you'll notice that I've set up this user Web East. This brings me to a pretty exciting part, and yesterday this didn't go so well, did it, Ellen? But I'm very confident today that this is going to work, because I've set up this webinar East Coast user for this demonstration. I am actually logged in as that user on my iPhone, and I'm now going to open that acceptance message on my phone. I am correctly answering the questions, and I'm going to click comply. Right.
Just for our listeners, it gets difficult when you're sending to me, myself, and I. You know, how many ways can you name yourself, and which phone is supposed to ring, and having that right phone.
Okay, thanks, Ellen. All right, let's see. Moment of truth. Let's see if this has worked. I'm going back to my summary report, and hallelujah, it worked today, as you see. So we now have 5 successes. So if we drill down again, you can see my success has gone up to 83%. And looking at that campaign status, I'm going to look at that. I don't think I clicked that actually.
So Jean, I'm going to ask a question that I asked last night because I think it's important.
Sure.
And that is that with our new success reporting, for those that haven't experienced it yet, one of the greatest features, I think, is that publish again feature, where you can simply push a button from the success report to publish again, and you can publish again to only those that didn't read, say, the original message. Mm-hmm. And I believe that we have that functionality with campaigns as well. So if you've sent it out, and in this case you've still got 20-some% that have not responded, have not complied per se, or signed that document or checked off on that document, and you don't want to bother the people that have done it. You only want to bug the people that haven't. So how could we do that?
Yeah, that's right, Ellen. We do have that feature. I'll show you in a second. While I'm here, let me just show you. Here is my Web East user, and she has complied. And this is actually showing my date and time here in New Zealand. So that worked really well, but let's quickly go back. What Ellen's talking about is on our success reports, there is a button here which says publish again or try again to those who have not. And we haven't yet added it, and after the session yesterday, Ellen and I went and made a note to the dev team to please add it, but you can still do it. If you go to that validation item, let's go and edit that. If you do choose to go and republish, so I'm clicking the publish button, it opens a dialog, and here I can select to only publish to those who have not replied. So absolutely the functionality is there, it's just a little bit further hidden with campaigns.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we're moving towards the end, but just one more thing. There are some other reports. If you look next to our password policy, we can see a nurture report. Now, nurture is another term for supporting items. They nurture the staff into becoming aware and educated about the topic, and this report is a summary of how people have interacted with all those supporting items. So that impression count that we spoke about earlier would be the cumulative number of the read count. That would add up to the impressions. Okay, but no, I'm afraid I've run out of time on reporting, but there's a lot more detail, so there's full detail on each of the elements that go out. But I'm going to return to my slides now to wrap up. Any questions before we wrap up? Any questions on reporting?
The only other question we just got in is on the validation item, is there a limit for the number of questions that can be added?
Ah, good question. So yeah, that's the scenario that I demonstrated, which I showed. We had 2 questions. Obviously the minimum is 1 question. You have to have at least 1, but no, there's no technical limitation to the number of questions. Obviously there's a sort of a virtual physical limitation of the size of your message window, but we can use scrolling to handle a number of messages. I guess it all depends on the complexity of your topic and how thoroughly you need to test your staff. But no, there's no technical limitation there.
Great. And that's our last question. So
Okay,
if there's
great.
any other questions as you're going into your wrap-up, please type them in, folks.
Okay. I've actually now going to do something fun and run a question for all of you. I'm going to run a quick poll. Hopefully this is going to pop up on your screen. There we go. My question to you is, does this resonate with you? Does this campaign concept and our tool resonate with you? Do you think that there may be a use for this in your company? So if you wouldn't mind popping in an answer there. I've got most of you have already voted. I have got 75% of people saying definitely yes. Nobody's saying no. 25% are unsure. So thank you for that. That's
22.
Oh.
It's going up and down.
Up and down. Now it's 70%, 30%. Anyway, that's good feedback for me. We had strong demand from customers to build this because people wanted that validation. So hopefully this is going to be well used by customers like yourself. I'm going to close that now, get it off the screen, I hope. Yep. So that was my poll. My next question is, what could we do to make it better? I realize, I'm putting you on the spot. If you can think of anything right now, send it through to Ellen. Else, please send it to me. As I said, I'm the product marketing manager. My job is to be the voice of the customer, to hear what you need and to try and work with that through the development team here. So I would love to hear any requests, anything you think that might be missing. I'd really love to hear from you. Okay, next steps. What should you do next? If you do like what you've seen, why don't you request a 30-day trial license for the campaign tool? You can request that from Ellen or Ria if she's your customer success manager. You can also request it directly from me. I'm happy to help. That was my email address. Once you have that in place, test it using your own content. Come up with a scenario, a problem, a topic you're currently trying to get employees on board with. See if you can make it work for yourself. Remember, it's that power of combining the SnapComms tools that's going to drive that behavioral change, and that's going to get your employees from over here, unaware, non-compliant, to over here, fully aware and 100% compliant. So that wraps up the webinar. I'd like to say thanks very much to you, Ellen, for fielding those questions. I couldn't do this alone. It's really tricky to see the questions when you're driving. So thank you, Ellen, and thanks to all of you for your time today. As I said, I will be distributing the recording of this webinar as well as the slide deck. The slide deck does continue and has full examples. Well, it has, screenshots of all the content examples you've seen today.
And if you could send us some of that warm weather you're experiencing in New Zealand. The majority of the people on this call would appreciate it.
Oh dear. We all have our turn in the world. All right. Thanks for that, Ellen. And thank you all, and goodbye from me and Ellen.
Have a great evening, everyone. Bye-bye.